Yes, hi folks. Welcome to another edition of Now You Know. I'm Chris Perkins, and I think we have a very interesting guest today. Actually, all our guests are interesting, but I've had a chance to talk to our guest before we came on air, and I learned some things I didn't know. So hopefully we'll present that and other things to you today. And my guest is Mike Pike, who is the school resource director for Madison, and you are also a deputy sheriff as well.
Yes.
And so you do both of those things, and in a minute we'll get into that, Mike. But I'll tell you what, Mike has an interesting history, and actually you come into the law enforcement business rightfully because your dad was a sheriff in Franklin County?
Franklin County, yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And was he a long-term sheriff over there?
12 years, but he was in law enforcement for about 40.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that somehow inspired you to get into the
I
business?
think so. He definitely piqued my interest, growing up with it. It was always something I was interested in and always thought it was something I might like to try at some point. And I've been in it myself almost 30 years. Next year will be my 30th year in law enforcement. So I guess, as they say, the rest is history.
Absolutely. And you are from Farmington originally, right?
Yep.
That's where you grew up, and then you currently live in Madison.
Yes.
And you've been in Madison for how long?
22 years.
Okay,
Yep.
so pretty long term. Now, you came to your position by a rather, I guess, circuitous route over the years, and one thing I learned from Mike off air is that he was a radio announcer.
I was.
Many years ago, and that's not the general path to get to be in the sheriff's department, but tell us a little bit about that.
So when I was 16 years old, I was hired by Alla Bargwin, who was the owner at the time of WKTJ radio in Farmington. 99.3 on your FM dial.
That's right.
And I worked there for a couple of years through high school and then into college, and actually was full-time with the station for about 4 years as their news director, music director, and their midday host.
Okay.
And I have to say, as much as I love law enforcement, that was the best job overall that I've ever had. I still look back on those days very fondly and really, really enjoy the experience and knowledge that I gained from being able to work in that field.
And you were kind of like, small stations, you can end up being chief cook and bottle washer at those stations. So tell people what some of the things that you did.
I did local news reporting. I would go out to different scenes and gather information, do live broadcasts from like fire scenes, accident scenes, if there was something interesting going on in town. I got to interview a lot of different political figures of the time when I was news director.
Very good.
Really got to be part of the community, and growing up there, I knew most everyone, as you do in small communities. And one of the things I really like about living in Madison, and my wife and I have been here for 22 years now, we raised both of our children here. They were very small at the time we moved to town, and it was great seeing them grow up in this community. And much like Farmington, now Madison being here for as many years as we've been, this has become my home. And I care very deeply about this community.
And you're very involved in the community, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But as I told Mike after listening to his background a bit before we went on the air, we're going to do a what's your life type of thing on Mike. So after the years in the radio station, eventually you got into law enforcement. So kind of take us through that. I know you went to the Maine Criminal Justice Academy.
I did. I graduated from the University of Maine at Farmington in 1995 and continued for a couple of more years in radio after graduation. Then in 1997, I decided I was going to give law enforcement a try. And I started working part-time for Livermore Falls PD that year, and ended up going through the Maine Criminal Justice Academy with Livermore Falls.
Okay.
I was a patrol sergeant there for a couple of years, and then moved on to JPD as a patrol officer for a couple of years. And then in 2003, I joined the Maine Department of Corrections as a probation and parole officer. And that's how I ended up living in Madison, is I was assigned to the Skowhegan office
Okay.
when I was hired in 2003.
Yeah.
So I've been here ever since.
Yeah. And you went on to work for the Somerset County Jail, and you've had what, various positions with them.
I have. I've been very fortunate. I've been with Somerset County now for 14 years, and have had the privilege of doing a number of different jobs with Somerset County. I was the domestic violence sexual assault investigator for the district attorney's office for 7 of those years. Got to work on, obviously, as the name implies, domestic violence cases, work with domestic violence survivors, work with domestic violence service agencies in Somerset County, and really got a chance to dig down and hopefully address the problem of domestic violence that, really impacts us all. But I also, in that time, worked sexual assault cases, including child sexual abuse cases.
That's a pretty intense job, I would say.
It is.
Yeah.
But a very necessary job. And, one of the things that I always said when I was in that position was, somebody needs to be their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody needs to be the voice of the child. And I always took that role very seriously, and, always did it to the best of my ability.
What do you perceive as some of the major causes of domestic violence?
I think socioeconomic, poverty, substance abuse, generational considerations. I think those all meld together, to create some of the dynamics of domestic violence. One of the things I really enjoy about being a school resource officer, kind of bringing it around to that, is I get to work with area youth and hopefully mentor and be a role model for them, and see if we can maybe work to change some of this generational beliefs that people have about how you treat your partner. And
start right on the youth level and
start
work up
right
from
at
there.
the youth
Yeah.
level. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a real shame, the amount of domestic violence, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to be getting any better. So maybe that's what you have to do. You have to start right at the developmental years and see if you can correct that. Do you think a lot of it is people from broken homes and parents doing drugs and stuff and things like that?
I think there is an element of that, but experience also tells me that domestic violence knows no socioeconomic background. It affects all of us, from the wealthy to the poor, to everyone in between. And there really doesn't seem to be one particular demographic that domestic violence impacts. It really does impact all of us. I mean, that's really a true statement. It is a societal issue, and much like substance abuse, which I know is another huge issue, not only in our community here in Madison, but in greater Somerset County.
Yeah, substance abuse, I would think, would be a big problem. People are hooked on drugs, and I'm assuming they're more likely to commit violent acts.
Well, there is a correlation, yeah, between substance use and increased criminality.
Yeah. So you were how many years in domestic violence?
I worked in the field for 7 years. I still have, a bit of a toehold in the domestic violence world. I was president of the Family Violence Project Board of Directors for 3 years, and on their board for several years. I'm no longer on their board, but I still try to be involved in community events surrounding domestic violence awareness. I'm also continue to be a forensic interviewer at the Children's Advocacy Center. So I interview children who are suspected victims of sexual assault and domestic violence.
It must be difficult to get them to even admit that something like that has happened there because of the fear factor involved, or potential repercussions if they say so, right?
It can be difficult at times, but you know, you do the best you can and
Yeah.
always hope for the best. And sometimes you do get the disclosure, and sometimes you don't. I mean, it really depends on, you know, the particular kiddo, where they're at, you know, in their particular situation, and, you know, whether they're ready to talk to someone about it.
Of course, you hear about the spouse that gets beaten up, and then they're initially going to, you know, blow the whistle on their husband or partner, and then they get talked into backing off that and letting them back in the household and all that stuff. I mean, you must have a lot of that, don't you?
Yeah, and when I used to do trainings for other law enforcement officers on the subject of domestic violence, one of the things I would do to kind of illustrate how difficult it is for a survivor of domestic violence to come forward and tell their story is, say, just as an example, I walked up to you and I pushed you to the ground. It would be very easy for you to pick up the phone, call the police, report the assault, have me held criminally responsible. But with domestic violence, you take that dynamic, and then you add in the fact that, you know, there are children involved.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Mm-hmm.
financial entanglements.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've got 20 years of history together in a relationship. All those good times and bad times
That's
melded
right.
together. And then suddenly the water becomes a lot more cloudy.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe there was an incident of assault or verbal abuse.
Yeah.
But you couple that with all of the other things, and suddenly it doesn't become quite as black and white,
Mm-hmm.
and quite as easy for a survivor to come forward and tell his or her story.
Yeah.
So that's what really makes it complicated. And I think being able to understand that made me more effective in my job.
Yeah. Because it's a shame, because you see situations where domestic violence is reported by a spouse, and then they either deny it later on, or they end up going right back into the same situation again. And inevitably, once it starts, it tends to repeat, right?
Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, again, it's not an easy solution. You know, there are so many dynamics at play, especially when you have a survivor who is trying to get out of an abusive relationship. But again, where do you find housing? Where do you take your children for daycare so you can work?
So a lot of this can be financial.
The financial support
Yeah.
piece. Yeah, all of it. And even, you know, there have been times I've worked with survivors who even their family didn't want them to leave
Yeah.
the abusive relationship. And, you know, family pressure is, you know, certainly another consideration. So there are just so many dynamics. It's really hard to say, you know, there really is no one solution to the problem. And I think that's why it takes, you know, an entire community to be aware of domestic violence and be supportive of survivors.
Does the county budget very much to this position, or to domestic violence in general?
We do. We have a dedicated position through the sheriff's office, the position that I held for 7 years.
Yeah.
It's currently being held by Jeremy Leal, who's a fantastic investigator, a fantastic detective, and he's in that position now. But yes, the county does believe it's very important that we have that position, and that person works under the auspices of the district attorney, Megan Maloney.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's ultimately Megan and her office that position is assigned to. But so very important, and I'm happy to say that the position is still in place.
Good. Now you moved on from there
I did.
with the sheriff's office. What did you do next?
So I moved into another position as Deputy County Administrator and Human Resources Manager for the county. So it was not a law enforcement position. I was in that job for about a year. Enjoyed it, learned a lot, but missed law enforcement. And I had the opportunity back in 2022 to join the Somerset County Jail first as the assistant jail administrator and then as the jail administrator. And I did that job for about 2 years.
So tell me, what's involved? You know, I looked up myself, administrator, and it's a pretty varied, all-encompassing type of job
It is.
with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, so you're in charge of, essentially 200 inmates, roughly 80 jail employees, a budget of about $8.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes with a lot of responsibility. And, it's a very important job, one that I took very seriously. Enjoyed being in management, but when the opportunity presented to come into this position, for me it was a no-brainer,
Yeah.
just for many, many different reasons, which we can certainly explore.
Certainly, yeah. But the administrator did all sorts of things, right? I mean, you were involved in budgeting, right?
Budget, personnel, inmate care, of course. I mean, we have to provide a safe, humane environment for our inmates, who are ultimately our neighbors and our sons and our daughters. I mean, they'll be returning to the community once they complete their sentence. So, it's important that we treat them humanely and with respect and dignity while they're in our care.
Mm. Did you want to get, well, obviously you're only there for a few years. Did you want to get back out into the community, involvement in the community more?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed working with youth. I actually attended UMF with the intent of becoming a teacher. Fate led me in
Took you other directions, yeah.
led me in another direction, but I've always had an interest in working with youth. And when we were raising our own children here in Madison, my wife ran a daycare out of our home for several years. And I was a Boy Scout leader. My wife and I were Cub Scout leaders. I was a youth coach for basketball through the rec department program for a couple of years. Just really enjoyed working with kiddos. And my kids are grown now, and I still kind of had that want to work with kids. And when the sheriff came to me and told me about this position, it was a very easy decision to make. And I'm so thankful to be here and thankful to have the opportunity.
And right here in your home community of
Right here in
Madison
my
too,
home community.
which is nice. So you're now the school resource director. Officer, excuse me, school resource officer. And so what does that entail?
So I spend my days primarily bouncing between the 3 schools in Madison. So I'll visit the elementary school, I'll visit the middle school, and I spend the most of my time at the high school. That's kind of by design. That demographic of youth, I think, are maybe the most, I don't want to say easily reached, but maybe that's the population we want to target as far as establishing trust, being a role model, getting to know the kids and them learning to trust law enforcement. Maybe they've had some bad interactions with law enforcement in the past, or maybe their folks have had bad interactions with law enforcement in the past. So what we're trying to do is kind of break down those barriers and establish a positive relationship and a safe environmental setting for the kids.
So how is that going?
I think it's going very well. I'm in my second year now.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe we're already 3/4 of the way through the year. The time goes by quickly, but I love what I do. Every day is different. I look forward to coming to work every day and getting to spend time with the kids. I walk the hallways, talk to the kids in the hallways. I teach some classes.
Okay.
I do an after-school program with the kids, and it's just been phenomenal.
What do you see as the major issues with kids? What's causing them the most problems?
Adolescence is tough, and
always has been.
It always has been, and
Yeah.
I remember thinking back, and I'll tell kids this. I remember thinking back when I was their age, middle school, junior high, high school age. Those are rough years.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out how you fit into this world, who you are, being popular, being liked, and those are tough years, and I'm kind of here to say, you've got this. Um, this is just one chapter of your life, and you're going to continue to grow, you're going to continue to mature, you're going to continue to figure out how you fit into this world. And I just want to be there to be kind of that cheerleader to say, hey, you've got this. You've got people around you that care about you, that support you, whether it be your parents, whether it be, a trusted teacher at the school, whether it be the school resource officer. I just think it's important that kids have a safe person they can go to if they're having a rough time, if they need help with something, whether it be me or whether it be one of those other resources.
In this day and age, there seems to be a reasonably high percentage of kids from broken homes or one-parent homes. Do you see a lot of disruption in their life or how it impacts their education based on that? Because the old days, of course, I come back. I'm from quite a ways back, and the old Harriet and Ozzie and Harriet type days of perfect nuclear households are probably more the exception than the norm. And how much of an impact does that have, broken homes with kids?
Well, I think it depends. It's funny. I've worked with some kids that, come from what you would maybe describe as a broken home, but great kids, fantastic athletes, good students. Their attendance at school is good. They're not in trouble. Then, of course, you have those exceptions where, there is a lot of upheaval in a home. Maybe you have a parent that's in and out of the criminal justice system. Substance use, of course, poverty, those are all considerations. And there are kids that struggle that come from that type of background, but there are always exceptions. And, I've worked with a lot of kids and parents who, are single parents, doing the absolute best they can to raise their kids, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And the kids are well adjusted and good citizens at the school and in the community. It's just really hard to predict.
Okay.
But, you have exceptions, and, you're always going to have kids that kind of fall into a rough time, and, hopefully we're there to be a support to them.
Well, it's kind of nice to know that there are a lot of kids who are strong enough to overcome what might be a fairly difficult background to go on and succeed. And you're kind of there to help guide them to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your allocation of time between schools? You say you kind of bounce around and...
Yeah, I would say I spend about 50% of my time at the high school.
Yeah.
We have grades 7 through 12 now at Madison. It's Madison Junior Senior High School now. So that's where I spend the majority of my time. And really my role in the school is obviously a presence of safety, but it's also as an educator and mentor. And I think maybe my job has evolved more into that realm. I'm part of a lot of conversations, kids that maybe will bring a vape to school or, step out of line and earn themselves a detention or, do something that, needs to be addressed. But it's always part of a conversation and a learning, hopefully, experience for them. One of the things that I do with my kids that vape, or we know vape or bring a vape to school, is I do a vaping education program with them, which is 4 hours. And it's not meant to be punitive, it's meant to be educational, and it is. I mean, I sit down with a kid, and I've had as many as 3 kids in a session at one time, but we talk about the dangers of vaping, the health impacts, of course, the legal impacts, potential legal impacts of vaping. So that's one of the things that I do to try to kind of divert kids from the criminal justice system. One of the things, and I read a lot and I do a lot of research on things, but one of the criticisms that I've read about an SRO program, just speaking generally, is that school to prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
If you put a law enforcement officer in an educational setting, the likelihood of kids being charged with crimes, some will say, increases. My goal is always to divert. And what I mean by that is if you have a kid that commits a crime, I mean, maybe it does warrant charging him or her. I mean, if based on the seriousness of it. But most minor offenses, we can work together independent of the criminal justice system. And that might be, again, sitting down and having a conversation, doing an education program, working with the parents to hopefully correct the behavior, working within the school system to correct the behavior. Kids are going to make mistakes, and I think it's important that we recognize that, as do all humans. I mean, we all make mistakes. But I think if we can, add that little bit of education when a kid makes a mistake, I think we're going to have a better outcome overall than we would diverting them into the criminal justice system.
Well, I guess the key, and I guess this is the goal, is to circumvent these problems before they become big
Absolutely.
issues and go spiral into adulthood, and then you're dealing with them, unfortunately, at the Somerset County Jail as they commit crimes. And that's the goal, is to cut that back, I would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And go on with successful lives, you hope.
Well, hopefully. I mean, that's what we're, raising kids is all about, is creating, future productive citizens, members of society. That's really what it's all about. And it's a team effort, working with parents and the school and law enforcement and, other resources in the community.
Now, you have this summer bike program.
Yes.
So explain exactly what that is.
So back last summer, I approached the sheriff and pitched the idea of doing a community bike patrol program in the town of Madison. And the sheriff, who's been tremendously supportive of all of these endeavors, approved it.
Yeah.
Thought it was a good idea, and so we implemented it. And so I spent a good part of last summer patrolling primarily the downtown areas of Madison on a bicycle. And, I think it's good in a lot of different ways. I mean, primarily it makes us more approachable
Yes.
to citizens.
Yeah.
It's easier to start a conversation with someone who's on a bicycle than driving around in the car, maybe with the window rolled up.
For sure.
And you're just cruising through. And again, it comes back to wanting to be part of this community, caring for this community, wanting really what's best for this community. But that just seemed like a really great opportunity to do some community policing within the town of Madison. Also a chance to maintain some contact with the kids over the summer. One of the drawbacks, and I love summer vacation as much as anyone else, but losing that contact with the kids for 10 weeks during summer vacation,
Right,
sometimes can be a setback, not having those resources available for kids.
And you're not only interacting with the kids, you're interacting with community members as well,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Stopping in, talking to business owners, letting them know we're around, that we're supportive, that you can call on us if you need us for anything. And I had a reward program, and I plan on doing it again this summer, where I would give a kid an award for doing something right. So if I catch them doing something good, like wearing their bike helmet if they're riding down the street on their bicycle, or I see them doing a good deed, they get a doing doing good certificate for an ice cream from Kennebec Ice Creamery.
Oh, nice.
So we established a partnership with Chris Roy and Kennebec Ice Creamery, and we gave out ice creams to kids doing the right thing last summer, and I plan on doing that again this year.
How much of the day are you riding bike?
Depending on the weather,
Yeah.
I would spend most of my day, some days on the bike. Rain and,
Maybe not.
maybe not so much on those days. I got to use it during Madison Anson Days this past year, and got to ride in the parade. I got to patrol around during the fireworks that evening, and I think it's been generally well received, and looking forward to doing it again this summer.
Now, you're still, you're a deputy sheriff.
Yes.
So are there still other responsibilities going on for you beyond the resource officer position?
Well, I'm still a law enforcement officer first, so if there's a significant incident within the town of Madison or even outside of Madison, I would respond
Okay.
just as any other deputy would. But my position, I am assigned to the town of Madison. So I
Okay.
work within the town of Madison, during the school year, during the summer. I work patrol and I patrol the streets of Madison. During school vacations or storm days, you'll find me in a cruiser in uniform patrolling the streets of Madison.
But if there's some major incident in Somerset County, you were
I would respond.
expected
Yes.
to respond
Yep.
to that as well.
Yep.
So, so obviously you're enjoying it.
I love it, and I've been able to help out with some other schools outside of Madison too. I cross the river over to Carrabeck quite frequently to help out with issues in the school over there. I'll hear from the Valley School District in Bingham occasionally, and we'll go up and assist with issues there. So I think the SRO program in general has generated a lot of support and a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And there are other school districts around Madison that seem to be interested, but whether the program grows beyond the borders of Madison, we'll have to wait and see.
So Skowhegan does not have this then?
Skowhegan does have it.
Oh, they do have it, okay.
Yep. Dave Dagno, who's Skowhegan's school resource officer, and I, we work very closely together. Fairfield does have their, Lawrence does have a school resource officer as well.
Okay.
But for the sheriff's office, I'm the only school resource officer.
So you're there if there, not only for public relations, but if there's some incident at the high school or something, big fight or
Yeah, I mean, I am
something
the first
happens.
responder.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid we have a significant incident at any of our schools. I'll be the first one on scene, hopefully to address
Hopefully not often.
the issue. Hopefully not often.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
It doesn't sound as though it's been that often then. Or...
It really hasn't. We've had a few issues over the past 2 years, but here and there, but nothing significant.
I think I read somewhere there was like this night out or whatever thing at Coburn Park in Skowhegan.
National Night Out, yes.
That you were involved in last year too.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
So a National Night Out it's something that's held annually. In Somerset County, it's held at Coburn Park, as you mentioned. We have law enforcement agencies from all over the county represented there. Social service agencies like KVCAP and Family Violence Project, sexual assault. These are activities for kids.
Mm-hmm.
I hosted a fishing derby game when I was there last year. But yeah, we have the National Guard come in with their climbing wall. I mean, the warden service come with their canine. It's just a great night, and it's all geared toward families and their children, and just a chance for families to spend the night out together, doing something safe and within our community. It's coming up next month. Actually, is the annual Scowpendus.
Oh yes, that's right.
And that's held down behind the Chamber of Commerce
Mm-hmm.
on Commercial Street. And I'll be there serving popcorn to the kids.
That's become actually a pretty big event over the years.
It has, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to get a little bit bigger every year. Kristen Plummer from KVCAP does a fantastic job putting that together. How she has the energy to be able to put all of that stuff together and plan is beyond me, but she does a terrific job, and we're really happy to be part of it every year.
Yeah. So Mike, from what I can tell, you're all about community and being involved in your community, and you have been involved in a number of public ways. I think I saw that you were on the school board at one time.
I was. Back when my kids were younger, I was on the MSAD 59 school board for about 3 years.
Okay.
Enjoyed it. It was a big commitment. But yeah, I think it's important as a citizen of this community, that I give back to the community in some way. This community has been so good to me, and I feel like I should be giving back in a way or two.
Well, I wish more people would have that attitude, and some people do.
Some
You've
people
got
do.
some very
Yep.
community-minded citizens. So if that wasn't enough, you decided to wade into the select person's position. You ran this past year
I did.
and won.
I'm one.
And so you're a year into it.
Yes.
Or most of a year into it. So tell us a little bit about that. I think, Sally Dwyer's your board
She's
chair
our board
now?
chair.
I've known Sally
Sean Bean is the
forever.
vice chair.
Yep.
It's a 5-member board. We have a really good board. We work very well together. We don't always agree 100% of the time on things, but
Nor should you.
nor should we.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been a great experience thus far. I've got 2 more years left in my term, and it's funny. One piece of advice that Al Venziano, who
Yes,
is a
yeah.
legend here in Madison,
Yes, he
gave
is.
me,
Maybe more for a girls' basketball coach than it is
Yeah.
on the select board.
but he was
actually.
on the select board for
Yeah.
gosh,
Long time.
long time.
Yeah.
He said, Mike, the best advice I could give you during your first year, especially, is listen twice as much as you talk. Because the first year, you're going to be learning how all of this stuff works.
No question.
And, he's been 100% correct.
Yeah.
I've learned so much this year. I still have a lot more to learn. But as time goes by and I do get my learning, curve up there, I, hope to be more vocal and I speak up when I feel it's necessary. But, I've really tried to abide by Al's advice, and it's been right on.
Yeah, I was on the board of selectmen in Skowhegan many years ago, and I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, and I got on there, and I was I didn't know much about anything other than I was kind of idealistic, and I said, I need to do this. I feel compelled to be involved in my community and do something like this. And I'll tell you, I was fairly lost my first year. I sat most of the time and observed and talked infrequently. We had a very good board chair back then, Warren Shea, who was an attorney in Skowhegan for many years. So thankfully, he helped me out in my early years on the board. But I found it to be very educational, that's for sure. I've learned a lot of things going on in the community that I probably
Yes.
wouldn't have had a good understanding of had I not been on that board. So I'm sure you're finding that are having that same experience. Although you're a little farther into life than I was when I first got on.
Yeah, and Madison is very much a community in transition. From the time that we first moved here in 2004 until now, the community has changed quite a bit. I think we're maybe an older community than we used to be. The loss of Madison Paper about 10 years ago has had a tremendous impact on the town, financially, psychologically. I mean, as far as the town's identity.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure out, what do we want Madison to look like moving forward? And I can attest firsthand, this is a fantastic place to raise children. The schools are fantastic. I'm excited about a lot of things going on in Madison. I'd like to see more younger families moving into town, especially, with children. I think that's how you keep a community vibrant and active and moving forward. And, figuring out revenue sources to provide town services, that's always a challenge. One of the big discussions lately has been the future of the rec program.
Right.
We hired our first full-time rec director, Danny Morshead, about 2 years ago, and Danny has done a wonderful job growing the program. He accepted another position recently, so we're without a rec director. So now the discussion has become, what do we want our rec program to look like? Do we want a full-time rec director, which we've had some community meetings. The sentiment overwhelmingly is that we do want to continue with a full-time rec director, but how can that new person how can we support that new person, continuing to move the program forward, continuing to grow the program, and being able to attract more children into rec. Because if you give kids productive things to do, the likelihood of them doing unproductive things, I think, decreases. So
Well,
it's really a win-win for us.
yeah, kind of goes right with your resource position.
Yes.
As well. If they're, you can keep them off the streets doing bad things and involvement in sports and activities, then a greater likelihood that they won't go astray.
Absolutely.
And succeed. So, any other major issues that are going on in the town of Madison? Do you see as being the select? I know you had this issue where a treatment center wanted to go in what was the old Taylor drugstore at one time, and
Yes.
the town basically said, no, we don't want it there.
Mm-hmm.
And they are now, I think, attempting to relocate somewhere else. Is that right? Or in town?
Yes,
or out of town?
they've filed an initial application with the town to be located in the Madison Business Gateway or Madison Business Park.
Yep.
The Select Board is continuing to review that application. We're set to take a final vote on it coming up soon.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for some legal opinion from the town's attorney on, the ordinance, the application, and how the two kind of meld together. But we're still, awaiting that final word from the town's attorney on whether we move forward or not.
Yeah.
And it ultimately is the Select Board's decision, and I can't speak to, how all 5 members will vote. I think it will depend largely on that opinion we get from the town's attorney.
Yeah. Well, it was controversial there for a while.
It is.
Yeah, and it's certainly very much needed. But I guess the issue was it was like a little bit too right in the middle of things in town.
Yes.
For people to find it acceptable.
Yep, and we did pass an ordinance that basically excluded it from being within, so many feet of a school or playground or safe zone.
Yeah.
So the Madison Business Gateway was a location that they had proposed, and as I said, we're still reviewing it and still trying to determine if it passes muster with the town ordinance, with state law, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Is that keeping you pretty busy being on the Board of Selectmen?
It is, but it's, again, it's a labor of love. Again, wanting to give back to this community, wanting to be part of this community, helping the community to progress and move forward. What's that old adage? If you do something you love, you don't work a day in your life.
That's right.
I've been
That's
very
right.
fortunate over the course of my career to do some things I really love, and including the position I'm in now as the school resource officer.
And Timber HP seems to be, after some hiccups there for a while, seems to be doing pretty well, right, from what I have heard.
Yes, they're ramping up production and hiring additional personnel. So very good news for the town of Madison that they're doing well and continuing to grow.
Very good news. And you're busy in a lot of ways, really. Don't you have some car business or undercoating or?
That's my son.
Oh, that's your son.
My son does that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am not a mechanic.
You're not that busy.
I'm a lot of things, but I do not pretend to be a mechanic or have much mechanical inclination.
When I saw that, I was thinking, how much time does this guy have, really? So, well, Mike, is there anything? Have we missed anything?
Nothing that I can think of, but I do want to thank Channel 11 for having us here and being able to talk about this, and it's really been a wonderful experience.
Well, we very much appreciated having you, Mike, and maybe we'll have you back on a future show.
Okay, I would be glad to.
And our guest today, Mike Pike, school resource officer. I kept saying director, school resource officer in the Madison schools, and a deputy sheriff for the Somerset County Sheriff's Department. Thank you very much, Mike. And now you know.